And I know that it may seem as though there's chaos in the land, but if you've been tuning in week after week, year after year, I've been discussing just the same way that a demon violently comes out of a person that is possessed. So too do demonic powers come out of lands and regions and areas. What seems like chaos is actually a manifestation of a massive deliverance that is taking place in the nation of America. We will be a nation that is a sheep nation because God has preserved this country through a remnant, and patience will inherit the promise, and we will see the Spirit of God come and move in a mighty wave of revival. Somebody needs to type in revival tonight, because I want to talk about the river of God. We're going to get into the river of God. We're going to get into some things that the Lord has been speaking to me prophetically about. I feel such a stirring in my spirit. I feel like there is, it's that forward motion that is moving in the land. And you got to see that deliverance is part of revival. And so there is this threefold cord of possession. It's the faith that sees, the patience that inheritance that brings the inheritance, but it's the action that possesses. That's James chapter 2, verse 20. Faith without works is dead. Faith that moves mountains must have action, and we must take action that claims the promise. This is why we can't stay behind the four walls of our church. We got to get activated. We got to get a spirit of boldness to go out and begin to preach the gospel. We got to begin to go on the streets and begin to do prayer walks. Why would you allow the enemy to so abundantly show his face in this country by way of prayer through false religions on street corners? Why would you, as a Christian, not begin to go out into the highways and the byways and begin to pray down those streets? Some of us need to begin to even go into the ghetto areas of this country, even to the hard places where the most demonic infiltration is taking place through drugs, through gangs, and begin to say, devil, you can't even have this street corner. I'm going in. I'm going in. And I'll tell you, we did that years ago when me and Pastor Darren and a team went to Seattle, Washington, down to the occupied zone that was called Chop Chaz. And we went right in there in the darkness of night and began to minister to people. I remember Pastor Jonathan from Yakima was with us. He prayed for a guy who had a heroin needle sticking right out of his arm, and the guy got saved. Some of the places in America are more dangerous to go to than nations like Pakistan, where we preach the gospel to the masses. Some of us are saying, God, I wish I want to go to the other countries. I want to go to the continent of Africa. I want to go, to India and all these different places. Some places are being overridden by false religions, and you don't even have to go to other nations to preach to those groups. You can do it right in your city. You can do it right in your area. But what you need is a spirit of boldness. And so this threefold cord that God has given to us, you need to recognize it and receive it tonight, because God wants to give you eyes to see. He wants to give you patience to inherit, and he wants to give you action to possess. Why should the devil have our streets? Why should there be a city where prostitution is just allowed to run rampant. Absolutely not. The devil is a liar. Why should we allow the enemy to have a foothold in our area, in our city, in our region? Why should we backpedal? No, the devil's a liar. It's time to take the power of the Spirit into the highways and byways. And I'll tell you, that's how you know what you have is real. That is how you know what you're carrying is authentic. Because if I go on the street and begin to pray for someone, they are going to receive the same thing as if I was standing behind a pulpit in a conference preaching, because I do it all the time. People say, "Well, Brother Charlie, you see those types of miracles because there's a certain kind of atmosphere that's been created, or that's just projection, and those people are just they've come on under what you're doing in a meeting." You're such a fool. You have no idea. I can go on the street. I was 2 months ago. There was a lady while I was pumping gas who was on crutches, who I prayed for her, and she walked away completely healed, put the crutches on her side of her arm, and got saved right there at the BP gas station, just a few minutes from our facility. Because when you have something that is authentic, when you have something, when the Spirit of the Lord is upon you, because He hath anointed you, it doesn't matter what people have to say to you. It doesn't matter how religious they want to get, because you've been mantled with power. Somebody type in power right now. And you're never going to find out what you have until you go and you begin to move and you begin to be used by God. And we don't go into the safe places. That's why this month, and the month of February, we're going to Togo, West Africa, where the largest fetish market of demon activity is in the entire earth. You can Google it. You can watch YouTube videos of it. The largest witchcraft satanic market is in Lomé, Togo, the very city that we're going to do a mass crusade, power evangelistic glory crusade. And the government is backing us. And the president is looking forward to meeting with us, because he knows that the satanic power that has been over that nation, that has kept that place in poverty for generations, is going to be broken. And so that's why we go into the dark places. We go to the places where nobody wants to go. Come on, somebody. I feel a boldness in my spirit tonight. We don't just preach on YouTube. We don't just make YouTube videos. My God, that isn't even ministry. We're ministering to you tonight, but we go to the nations. We go into the highways and the byways. We're taking a team of 30 on ground. But don't wait to go on a trip with Destiny Encounters to go into your city, to go down your street. You say, "Well, Brother Charlie, I'm afraid to pray, and I'm afraid to do this or that." You need to get a spirit of boldness. I'm afraid to talk to somebody about Jesus. Then you need to get saved. You need to get born again, and boldness needs to come on you. At the very minimum, you can at least go out on the streets and begin to pray. Begin to prayer walk your city. Begin to draw out the most demonic places in your town and say, "The devil can't have this place." And some of the times we think the cities of our nations are the worst, like the large metropolitan areas. Some of the biggest strongholds of racism and poverty and demonic strongholds are right in the rural cities, right in the rural places. It's not always the big metropolitan areas. Sometimes the most demonic strongholds that have been there for decades and generations are in the smaller towns, in the rural areas.